So today we're editing this photo I took of Cabarita Island right inside of Port Maria Bay. And this is a raw to finished product edit. I'm going to be doing something really cool with the color curves. If any of that sounds familiar to you or sounds interesting, just grab a cup and let's dive right in. So the first thing I'm going to do on this photograph right here is going to go over here to my preset panel and I'm going to select one of these presets. I'm just going to have a few different presets for different lighting conditions here. And I think I'm going to be using the jerk sauce preset. I think works well for it. Alright, so a quick before and after, and that's just with the preset. And let me just take a few, just a brief minute here to explain what exactly this preset is doing. So if you check on what the preset has done to my settings here, the blacks are lifted all the way up, the whites are brought all the way down, and what that does is really it just kind of evens out the exposure. So I don't have anything that's going completely black and I don't have anything that's going completely white. So it reduces the contrast, but then in my curves here, the color curves, in the three color channels of the curves, I have here these S curves. And pretty steep, pretty significant S curves, which brings back a lot of the contrast. And if you can look at if you're looking at the before and after, you'll notice that it is way more contrasted than just the raw photo. Not only that, the colors are kind of very rich and deep now. That's because I use the color channels to do the curves. Using the color channels for contrast tends to give you a richer, deeper, denser image. Now the exposure is not exactly where I want it, so what I'll be doing, I'll be using the parametric curve here now just to tweak the exposure a little bit more. And I think the darks, then the shadows. Alright, I'm going to leave the shadows right here at +4. And then just bring down the highlights a little bit. The lights I'm going to bring up to +9. Alright, so that's looking a little bit better. Now we have lost a little detail in the sky, but I'll take care of all of that in masking. There is just one more thing. I like to go here in the presents tab, and I might add a little bit of these, or usually taking away a little bit of these depending on the photo. But this photo, because it was shot on a long lens and my subject is quite far away, there's usually a lot of atmosphere in the sky, so these tends to help the photo, bring the photo just alive, just a little bit. More than usually, I'm always taking down the clarity to try to get rid of that little digital look, and taking down the texture. So I usually take this down quite significantly, maybe to like -15. And then what I'll do as I go through and do masking, as I do my local edits and not the global edits. So global edits is what I'm doing now, been moving sliders. In masking, I'm selecting specific areas of the photo now that I am going to be affecting, while leaving the rest of the photo untouched. I'll go back while I'm masking and I'll strategically add texture and sharpness to where it is most needed. Now that our exposure is almost looking good, I'm just going to drop the highlights just a little bit, and that will help me get back some of the detail in the sky. And then let's see if I need to lift the shadows. Actually, yes. So there is one thing I want to correct before I go any further. This is kind of color work. But before we go down to the calibration panel, which I'm going to be going to next, let us just zoom in. Let me get rid of that before photo. And now, one of the problems that are quite common when you're shooting into a lot of foliage, a lot of leaves and trees like this, and especially when it's far away, this is very common with mountain photos. You get this blue haze in the shadows. There's a quick fix for this inside of the curves panel, so I'm just going to click the blue curves channel. And if you don't know about color theory and color curves, I have a video I'm going to link in the description where I go in depth and explain curves. Curves is one of the most powerful tools inside of Lightroom, especially if you are trying to achieve a signature, constant signature look that is recognizable instantly recognizable by anybody who's looking at your photo. All right, so now that I've selected the blue curves channel, I'm going to go here to the top left hand corner where it has this little dot with two arrows that go up and down. And this is an adjustment point. So I'll then take this point onto the photo, and I'm just going to find one of the blue shadow areas, and I'm going to click. Now I want to subtract the color blue from these shadow areas. So what I will be doing is pulling this down very, very gently, and just like that, we have removed the blue from the shadow areas. Now we can't pull it too far, it's going to look weird. We're just taking out that excessive blue from the shadows. Alright, so let us zoom back out and take a look at, wow, that makes such a big difference. Now down to the calibration panel. Let's just stop a moment to just tick these two boxes. Profile corrections, it corrects any distortion or vignetting that the lens might have. Before and after. So we're going straight down to the calibration panel now, and the calibration panel is one of the most important panels if you are going to be trying to nail down a certain look color wise inside of your photos. Calibration panel is super powerful for that. We are here in the calibration panel, and I'm going to just in the shadows take my slider to the right just a little bit, very, very minimal adjustment. And then for the three primary channels, the red primary, green primary, and blue primary, I usually just kind of experiment and see how it looks. So I would make a big rock to one side, because these all affect the photo differently depending on the light and colors inside of the photo. So usually I'm leaning towards a certain look. I'm just locking in the look now. So here it's all up to taste, to personal taste, and to the results that you are going for. So I'm just going to continue tweaking these until the colors look the way that I want them to look for this photo. There, let's just do a quick before and after to see what changes I've made. I really like what this has done to the blues and somewhat to the green, but the colors aren't exactly where I want them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll up to the color mixer, which gives me a lot more control over the individual colors, and I can control the hue, the saturation, and the luminance of these colors. So the first thing I want to try to fix now is the color on this rock face here. Now I think it has gone a little bit too warm, too brown. I really imagine it being of a more red magenta color. There are several ways we can do this. So the first thing we're going to do is to try with this hue adjustment. So like the point picker on the color curve, if we click on this and go to the photo, clicking on the color that we want to adjust, if we pull up and down, it will adjust the hue of that color to the consecutive areas along the color wheel. So we can adjust the hue here by pulling up and pulling down. And as I said, I wanted to make these yellows more orange, and already we're seeing our results here. And if you look at the color mixer, you will see the corresponding hues that we are moving right now. Alright, also I would like to warm up the greens just a little bit. It's still appearing a little bit cool, so just to slightly warm them up. and that is looking better. Now let's just zoom out and then a quick before and after to see what we have accomplished. So the effect is most visible on the rock face on Carabita Island, but there is also a slight change in the greens and the mountain range behind here. Alright, so that I'm pretty happy with those colors, where the hues are. For the blues, I usually like to bring them a little bit more towards the aqua end of the spectrum, but for some reason for this photo it just doesn't work. I think we'll lose a lot of the dynamics if we make that particular decision. So actually I'm going to go opposite to what I would usually be doing and just bring the blues towards the magenta side. Alright, so now that I'm pretty much having the image where I want it in terms of colors, I'm going to do some more work with the masking options. So a quick before and after, just so we can see how the image is appearing. Now let's move to the saturation. We are going to saturate these blues very, very slightly. The greens add saturation, yellows add saturation. Now for the oranges, we're really going to bring out the oranges. We have a very small patch of orange, so I'm going to really aggressively saturate my oranges because it is such a small percentage of the entire image. We need those oranges to pop. And then now let's take a quick look at the before and after. Before, after, before, after. So you can see it's subtle but very significant, the work that we have done here inside the color mixer. And finally, I'm going to just tweak the luminance of the blues just to make those a little bit denser. Then for the aquas, I'm going to increase the luminance, and for the oranges, I'm also going to increase the luminance. Alright, and those colors are looking good. So next, we're going to move the masking. So the first thing, I am noticing at the top of my photo, there's this really deep blue color in the sky, and it's looking nice, but generally speaking, we do not want the edges of our photos to be more saturated than the main area, the center point. It is generally considered good practice to have the eyes be drawn to the center of the photo, and the eyes are always going to be drawn to the most saturated portions. So I'm going to click here on the mask menu, click the plus to create a new mask, and I'm going to go down to the linear gradient. I'm going to pull that down from the top of the photo right here to the tip of this cloud, and I'm going to desaturate that very slightly. And I'm also going to click on the mask menu again, another mask, create another mask, this time a radial gradient, and I'm going to drag that out along the center of the photo. Now for this mask, I'm going to be adding some contrast. Again, we are trying to bring attention to the center of the photo and really emphasize the subject. So I'm going to be adding contrast and just a little bit of saturation right here. Now, if it turns out that things start to look a little bit too saturated, I can always go back here into my color mixer and just drop the saturation, especially on the blues here, just to smooth them down just a little bit. Now, there's something we need to do about this body of water here. This the water and the bay. Alright, so if we look at the water here, we zoom in, we will see that the water has a fair bit of texture, and personally that's something that I don't enjoy very much. So this gives me a good opportunity to show you one of the newest masking features in Lightroom, and those are the landscape mask. So let's click back on the mask icon again, click create new mask, and we're just going to go down and select the landscape option. And what that does now, it's going to just analyze the photo with AI. So it has analyzed the different parts of the landscape making up the photo. So we have the sky, the mountains, the vegetation, and the water. So for this particular mask, we just want the water selected. And you can see the red overlay showing me now that the mask or the selected portion of the photo is now the water. And this does a really fantastic job. It's a clean selection and it's just a few clicks. I'm going to click to confirm my selection and create the mask. And now that I have the water selected, I'm going to scroll down into this menu. So this little sub menu pops up that allows me to make adjustments that will just affect the mask's area. So I'm going to first thing go and further decrease the clarity of this area. Take off a little bit of the DAs, so a little bit of negative DAs to just soften the texture on the water. And of course, I'm going to take the texture down to about -20. DAs down to about -10. And that looks pretty good. Let's just do a quick before and after to see what we have done there. Now, I think we have taken off a little bit too much of the DA, so I'm going to add back some of that. -5 is where I'm going to leave it. I want it to be a very subtle smoothing of the water. Alright, so one thing I've noticed now is that the water, it's a little bit desaturated. I'm going to add back a bit of saturation inside of the mask to bring back that rich, deep color that we had before. That represents how the water really appeared when I took the photo. The other thing that I want to fix on this is that we have this kind of even light over the water. And one thing I like to do to my waters and the skies is to add a little gradient on them. It creates a lot of depth and it helps to guide the eye through the photo as well. So I'm going to click here, create a new mask, go back to landscapes, select water again, create mask. But now I'm going to show you a little secret. So if I right click on the water mask that I just created, this little menu pops up. Go down to intersect with mask, and then I'm going to go linear gradient. So I'm going to be using this gradient now. Took it from the wrong angle. So I'm going to be using this gradient now to further alter the water mask that I have made, and then drop the exposure. So what's happening now is I'm darkening a portion of the water in this smooth linear gradient, and then it kind of just helps to accentuate the sunlight going down over here in this area. So it's a little bit of dodging and burning with the AI mask. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is to just get a proper selection of the sky. So I'm going to go to landscape and sky. Just click to select the sky and create mask. And now I'm going to just drop the exposure on the sky just a little bit. Looking at this, there's an obvious problem. Right here, let's zoom in. Right here along where the mountain meets the sky, there's this really weird halo edge because of the edges of the mask. So one pro tip to avoid having this in your photos is to just go to subtract, linear gradient, and we'll just pull up a linear gradient along the mask, and that kind of just smooths out that hard edge, takes off that hard edge and smooths out the transition from the mountains to the sky. And then I'm going to kind of I think the darkening effect on the sky is a little bit too strong, so I'm just going to take a little bit of that off, and also bring down the highlights some more to get a little bit of detail in those brighter areas. Right. Actually, I'm going to also take the whites up just a little bit, and I still think the effect is just a little bit too strong. Right, and there we are. So let's just look how far we've reached, we've gotten. A quick before and after. So that's before, this is after. All right, we're almost there. Overall, I think the exposure of the photo is just a tad dark, so I'm going to lift the exposure just a little bit. Now I think I just need one more mask. Actually, we need two more masks. Now the photo, the DAs that I added to the photo when I just started, I don't think it's doing any favors to that mountain range behind there. So I'm going to actually take the DAs from the entire photo down to just +3. But for Cabarita Island here, I want the island to be the focal point of attention, so it should be it should have the most detail, contrast and saturation in the photo. So I need a mask that is just going to select the island and nothing else. So I'm going to go to the masking menu, create mask, and now because the island, the AI is recognizing the island as a part of the mountains, but I don't want to select the mountains, I'm going to go to select objects, and then I'll get this little brush menu that I can change the size of. I'm going to just use this brush, paint over the island, release the mouse, and AI should make a perfect selection of the island. Alright, so now that I have a selection of the island, I'll scroll down through the masking menu, down to dehaze, and then just add a little bit of DAs to that island. Not too much. Alright, so now the DAs has darkened the dark side of the island a little bit too much. So I'm just going to go up here to the basic panel of my masking menu and just lift the shadows just a bit. Add back a little bit of contrast and also just a little bit of exposure, not so much. And then bring up the DAs even further to just balance off back everything. And finally, let's add a little bit of extra saturation to the island. Zoom out to take a look at what we've done. And so now let us look at the before and after. So you see quite significant and dramatic change from that one mask. Alright, now one final mask, two final masks. Alright, I'm almost done with masking. So we'll get a radial gradient. We're going to try to get a little bit of a glow, of a vignette going. So because I'm making such a large mask and it is going outside the boundaries of my viewer, I can actually take the photo down. I'll go to 6.3% so I can see everything, and then I'll be able to manipulate the mask. So now the mask is pretty much in the position in which I want it. I'm just going to quickly invert this mask and then just drop the exposure. So I should be getting this very nice gradient of light. Now we have a problem here once more. So it kind of looks like there's just this light coming through from the right of the photo and just spilling onto these waves right here, which is the effect that I really wanted to create. Now I do not want this effect on the sky, so you know the drill. We go up to the mask, make sure that mask is selected, go to subtract, and then select sky, and that will take off the effects of the mask from the sky. And now that we've done that, I think the mask overall is too dark, so I'm just going to ease back on that just a little bit. Your individual edits should be very subtle. No one edit should transform the photo. It's step by step. A quick look at the before and after. Let's fit this back into the viewer. I'll see we've taken this photo very far away. Now, I think this side of the photo is just a little bit too dark for my liking, so I'm going to raise the shadows very slightly. Finally, add some AID noise to further smooth out this image. Alright, so looking at this photo, the edges are a little bit too dark for me, so I'm just going to go back to this, to the radial gradient mask. I'm just going to take it down the effect quite a fair bit. As I was saying, the changes should not be too obvious, and also the same for this mask on the water. Right, and then I'm going to drop the exposure, and that's looking a lot better. Alright, so final step. One of the most important things to do while editing is to just take a few minutes and step away and just allow your eyes a reset. And you can come back and you can look at your photo and you will see exactly where you have gone wrong. So for this photo, I have walked away. I've had my eyes, allowed my eyes to reset, and I realized that it's overall a little bit too dark. So I'm going to be raising the exposure right to about there. And then the highlights, I'm going to drop the highlights a little bit further. And then I'm going to go here into the point curve to raise the black point, and then drop a little, just a slight S curve here. Bring down my white point, kind of just add a very gentle roll off to the highlights. So now this is my finished image. I think this is looking fantastic. And let's just take a quick look at the before and after. Alright, so that's going to be it for today. I invite all questions and comments. If there is, did you like the edit? Please let me know in the comments. You did not like the edit. Anything that I did here that you would have done differently. You know, I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody who loves editing. I've been editing for a few years, and I'd just love it to be an open discourse between us photographers and editors. What would you have done? What did you like? What did you dislike? Please leave it in the comments. Thank you for watching if you got this far, and I'll see you in the next one.